Yeah, what's poppin', guys? Sizzyl here. Welcome to the third ever episode of the Grill Podcast, where we cook up hot takes. This episode, we're going to be talking about just kind of video games. What makes video games good. What are our thoughts on, how they're currently produced and released, and just kind of everything around that. With that out of the way, I hope you enjoyed the episode. So I'm Sizzyl, and my favorite type of cheese is Havarti or Havarti. I don't know how you say it. One or the other.
I've never heard of it.
Really?
What is that? What?
Is that not how you say
I've
it?
never heard of that type of cheese.
What did you say? Halvade?
Havarti?
Harvati?
Havarti, yeah.
Okay, whatever.
No.
Spell like
Nobody eats that anyway.
Havarti. Anyway.
Yeah, Havarti. I know what you're talking about.
Well, they don't. Anyway,
Oh.
Yeah, no idea, man.
we need the other introductions. I know to the viewers at home, you guys are just the voices. We gotta identify yourselves.
Yeah. Usually the same voices in someone's head. I apparently go with the name founder on the YouTube. Don't ask me about that. Cheese. Mature cheese.
Much.
It's an actual thing. Yeah, mature cheese. It's
Why do you guys have
It's a
such
British
specific
cheese.
cheeses?
Havarti's a
because
pretty
I'm mature,
generic
man. What do you
thing.
mean?
Havarti, I find in
I
like
don't use it.
every supermarket across
Maybe
the whole US.
It is pretty common.
Maybe it's not in Canada or something, but
Could be. You guys are weird.
Anyways, I'm the Boo King, or the Bookening, or the cooking. I like mozzarella cheese, it's good old fashioned mozzarella cheese. Goes well with a lot of things. And yeah. Pretty much it.
I'm Psychom, and I also find that mozzarella cheese is probably the best, just because it's got that nice squish, nice little ball. If you get in that like packaging, oh, so good on pizza. Make my own
That shit-
fresh
that shit
homemade
goes
pizza.
crazy.
Oh, it does.
That's fair.
Actual cheese enthusiast.
Alright, anyway, now we've gotten those intros out of the way, let's get on to the actual discussion at hand with the first question of what are your current thoughts on the game industry nowadays, maybe like compared to the past?
Okay, I think that the game industry has been like at a constant decline for I want to say like the past decade. I find that MW2, MW3, Black Ops 1 era was like the peak of gaming for me at least, but that might differ depending on what generation you were born in. Like let's just say you're age 10 to 15, then maybe you think that peak gaming is like right now, but I would have to disagree with that, unfortunately.
Without letting nostalgia cloud my judgment, I think technically right now the gaming industry is kind of thriving, but I don't know. There's just something about it that just doesn't feel like the good old days. Like it's just kind of, for consumers, I feel like it's kind of on a decline, but for a business, it's going up, if that makes sense. So for me, it's a little like not too great, but I can see it being successful as an industry, which is kind of good too, but there's pros and cons.
I basically see it the same as that. AAA is terrible. Indie at the moment is really good. If I'm being completely honest, like it over exerts AAA at the moment, but it's been on like a slow decline over the years, and it's terrible to see like from what it was like 10 years ago to now from like AAA is quite shocking.
Yeah, I'd definitely say for me, I have a specific year of 2009. I think that's release of Galaxy 2, and that was around the same era, like Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare, all that. And then after that, every year got progressively worse and worse. But like Founder said, I think indie games have been thriving a lot more because you can actually make games as an independent developer nowadays. Anyway, off to more specifics, though. One of the big changes over, especially this last year or so, is the price of games. What are you guys' thoughts on the price of games? Like, what do you think they should be priced at? What do you think about those $70 games?
I think the $70 games, like the AAA games, like that's fine with the pricing, but when it comes to the DLCs that come with it, then I feel like maybe they shouldn't have to pay, like your customer shouldn't have to pay for that DLC content if they're already paying $70-$80 for a game. But that's just my personal opinion. Obviously, they have to make money in some way, but Anyways, like most of the other gaming companies right now, they're actually making free-to-play games, and that drives like a lot of customers to, purchase, well, not purchase, just download their game and try it out. And if they like it, then they also have the microtransactions that allow for the company to actually make money off them. And that's basically how a lot of companies are having their motto for getting, customers to actually pay for stuff in their game.
What's interesting to me is how technically nowadays games are cheaper in a sense, because if you account for inflation, like a lot of those old SNES Genesis games are were like $50 back in the day, which at the time that was way more expensive and harder to justify purchasing. Just definitely something to consider as well.
I mean, I think in that same point though, games like the price of games might not have changed, but the thing is the cost to make games have went down exponentially. Like some of the early Xbox, like 2009 games or whatever, were costing companies like millions and millions and billions of dollars to make. And now, like, someone could literally remake COD Black Ops 1 in probably like a year by themselves, just with any game engine. And I think that's something you should take into account, because it really means like the price of games maybe shouldn't even be, even with inflation. I don't know if they should be that high. Like I think you get Shovel Knight, or at least when I got Shovel Knight, it was like $20, and that's one of my favorite games.
I do agree with the statement of it's probably costing more to make, but at the moment you're not really getting as much. It's like food with inflation, you're getting less in terms of like quality of games. Like Bethesda released Ultimate. Oh, I give up. Ultimately, a really shit game called I think it was called Blood. I forgot. It was like a vampire based game, and it got absolutely review bombed because it was terrible, and it was like £35. And then Payday 3 dropped, which I really love. Payday 2, £35, £70 for the premium edition of the game. Yeah, no, that was really shit as well. The game itself is good. It's just there was so many issues to the point where that you can't really even play the game. It's like, why are we spending this much money just on something that is clearly not finished and nowhere near a quality of standard that those companies deserve a title of AAA? Whereas indie developers are charging, like, say, Ultra Kill's like £15, and it's like the best game on Steam, and it is worth all that money, and it's still in early access. That is a higher quality than some AAA games by a mile.
If I may say, ultimately, I think the craziest thing is that not all games are made equal, but for some reason they're priced equally. Like I can get Pokemon Sword and Shield for $60 or Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for $60, and I can tell you one is not like the other in terms of its quality and its content. Meanwhile, you have some baller indie games like Celeste or Cuphead, which like usually go on bargain for like $5 or $10. They're going on sale regularly, and those are some of the best games I've played.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I do want to kind of go back to what Founder was saying, though. What do you guys think about like live service games where they release as this completely unfinished product? Fallout 76, even Overwatch 2 to some degree. Like just every game recently kind of releases, or what's the really big one? That like one space game that was really big and flopped.
Oh,
Starfield?
Not Starfield.
No,
the one No
it's-
Man's Sky. No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
What about like No Man's Sky, where the game released as a completely unplayable, buggy mess, and then a few years later is now, I've heard people saying that game is really great now, but that was like after 3 years of nonstop development and patching. Like, do you think that's a good thing that devs are able to do that? Or do you, I don't know, prefer when you got a mostly, like a 90% complete package that obviously had some bugs because they couldn't patch the game way back in the day?
It's kind of a varied answer, if I'm being completely honest, because yes and no, because if it was released as early access, say at a lower cost, like what Rust did, that went from being £8 when I originally bought it back in 2016. Now the game drives £35 from their constant updates. So it's gone from being a cheap game to now being quite a sizable priced game, but it's offering a lot more content than it did back then. That's kind of why I see it, is like if it's not finished enough, you can just charge a lot less for the game. But as soon as like it gets towards like more and more content, just like charge slightly more for it, because then it's more incentive to then just buy the game now and then wait a couple of years later and it's going to be like £35 because it's finished then.
I've definitely seen that model a lot more, but what about like for example the game Temtem, it's like a Pokemon clone or whatever. I got that for like $15 back in the day, and I think now it's like 50, which is kind of a crazy price hike. But what about the games that are releasing like full price, buggy, and then get fixed over time, but the price doesn't change? I mean, like I said, No Man's Sky is probably the biggest example of that.
I mean, it can be again varied, as if it's released to a playable state, then I guess it's somewhat okay, but it's just the fact is games cost a lot to make, and if they don't have enough money, but the game's in a playable state, I can see justifying that to release it early, as spending more time on the game having it not released will cost more money that they will not get back. Whereas that if they released it, they can just constantly update it. So yeah, I see that's fine, but if the game just released as it's completely shit, then no, I don't.
Gotcha. So basically, what you're saying is like they can almost use it like a funding round as they're making the game. Do you think those developers should make it more clear that it's actually like really early access? Because a lot of companies release games under the guise of early access, and there's some games that have been in early access for like 10 plus years at this point. You know, like
Isn't Fortnite still in early access?
I think Fortnite
Pretty sure.
officially
No, I
released
think
like
that's released.
I think a year or two ago they had to release it because they got in legal trouble. I think that's what happened. I think they had an early access from like 2017, 18, whenever it blew up, all the way to like
It was
2021.
like 2 years.
And then they released
2
it
years.
as like an actual. They did like a quote unquote release just silently in the background because they had some legal issues. That's at least what I remember hearing.
Gee, I wonder why.
About the validity of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. Honestly, I just think it's kind of a grey area, because you can just mark something on early access on Steam, but you need to like if you want to like be 100%, you can like put like roadmaps and where the game is currently to make it more obvious that it's early access, but it's not like fully done. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So basically, have more transparency to your customer base than a lot of these AAA studios have.
And I just want to say,
much.
I think it's really good. Like, it's good to make a game early access or like put it in a beta and let people try it out, because then they can actually give you feedback. Like, if you're not making them spend full price for the game and like releasing it all at once, then you can get feedback from the community and like find out what people like about it, what they dislike, and get more information on it. And then you could see like what your player base is looking like, how many people are actually like interested in your game, and if you should change something from that point on. Then it's like, it's like a lot of information that you can get out of making something early access or like a beta or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Based on what I've heard, it mainly kind of just depends. I really don't really have a lot of experience like messing around with betas and early access stuff like that. I should really get this out of the way. I'm more of a Nintendo guy. And in their sense, what they do, actually, it kind of started with Splatoon all the way back on the Wii U, where they released. What they do is they release a $60 game, full thing, but it comes out with like the minimal amount of content, and they just drip feed it like every week. There's new maps, whatever, and they started doing this a lot, especially with like the sports games on their console. And a lot of those kind of got hindered because like they come out with no content at all. So like, what's the point? Everyone's hyped for this game. It has nothing. And then over time they start adding more content. So it's not more so for like in my experience that it's buggy or like just, bad inherently. It's just it comes unfinished, which is kind of my problem with the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that the sports game you're even referencing specifically didn't like the soccer game like Super Mario Strikers, didn't that just not even come with like the main characters of like Waluigi and Daisy? Didn't they get added in like a few months after the fact?
They came with like I think 8 characters, and then like maybe a couple months later they release Daisy.
Like imagine they release a Halo game and Master Chief comes into the game like 6 months after the fact. It's like what the
Basically, yeah, that's what it was.
Like what are you doing?
Man,
Yeah, no, I hate that. It's terrible.
Yeah. But there is a lot of ways of monetizing these games, and one I've seen a lot more recently, and it's been hard to escape from, are pay-to-win games. Either like free or paid. What do you guys think about those games as a consumer?
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, so the one game that I like most notably was playing like kind of recently was Stumble Guys, and that's probably the biggest pay-to-win game I've ever played in my life. And it starts off where you don't really need to pay in order to like have fun in the game. But after you win enough times, like the game, it like obviously there's going to be skill-based matchmaking in a lot of these games. So what happens is in Stumble Guys, if you get high enough ranked and like people are actually getting good at the game, then there's emotes, and some of the emotes are like harmless, but some of them are interactive with other players. And in a game that's like a battle royale, where if you don't like have emotes and are interacting with other players, like some of them is like a kick, and it like basically sends your guy into like a flail or like a ragdoll, and you can see how overpowered that would be. And those games are fun at the start, but after you get good enough, then like as a consumer, and I want to be free to play, it just drives you away completely. There needs to be some other like incentive to keep playing the game. But yeah, pay to play is definitely like, it's not nearly as fun for anybody who's wanting to just play the game casually.
Yeah, well, I will say I've been playing Stumble Guys myself recently, and I agree with that. There's literally basically the whole start of the game, all your default stuff, you literally can't interact with other people. Like you're just going through like parkour courses, almost like Squid Game or whatever. And then when you like you said, eventually you get into lobbies where people have paid money, and there's literally emotes where you can punch people like off a cliff or something, and you literally can't do anything about it unless you also have paid money to be able to punch people off a cliff, which is crazy. It's it's a system I very much do not like and hope no game sees going forward. Stumble Guys, I agree. I think that's the furthest I've gone. Actually, no, that's not the only one. Stumble Guys is the one I played recently like that, but the other one is a mobile game. It's I don't know if you've heard of it, Plants vs Zombies Heroes. It's like a Plants vs Zombies card game. And that one, I got into it early enough that I basically got everything for free. But if someone started in this day and age and tried to get to where I'm at, it's kind of like Hearthstone in the same monetization where you basically have to buy card packs and you can slowly get them for free. Since I played early on enough and I played so much before they started jacking up the cost of stuff for free players, basically making so you had to buy cards. I basically have all the cards in that game, and I'm really fortunate to have it because that game's actually really fun when you have everything. But people who start nowadays, I think you have to get what I have, you'd probably have to spend like $200, which is crazy. It's a huge barrier to entry, and it makes the game basically unplayable if you just don't already have everything.
It's a lot of money to invest into a game.
Well, then there's like Hearthstone. I think isn't that one in the thousands at this point of dollars to catch up?
I want to say those games are pay to win, like highly pay to win, but they're nothing compared to this one game one of my buddies from work was playing. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called Ebony.
Never heard of that.
But yeah, it's like I didn't really know what it was. I'd never touched it, but he said that some of the people were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're still like, you can get higher ranked in that. Like it's basically infinite. Like as much money as you want to spend, then you can just keep going. And basically, if you spend that kind of money, then you can just like wipe out entire clans by yourself, and you don't even need any help. Like that's just how overpowered the game is.
Now I remember with Diablo 4, whatever the one that came out on phones was, there's that one guy who's making headlines. He basically spent $130,000 on Diablo, like as a streamer, because he had that kind of fuck you money to throw around. And because he had bought in so much gear and was so overpowered, he was so far above everyone else in the matchmaker that he literally just couldn't find games because there was no one even close to $130,000 is insane. So the game literally couldn't find people that had gear even remotely close to his. So he just literally would sit there for hours to not be able to play the game because he spent $130K, which I thought was absolutely hilarious and deserves. I've paid for stuff in pay to win games like once or twice before, but in this day and age, if it's ever pay to win, I try to avoid it as best I can. I think the closest I've gotten has been Overwatch, where whenever a new hero comes out, you can either play the game for like 30 hours to unlock them, or you spend $10 at the start of the season to just get them right away. And that's kind of pay to win when some of those heroes are pretty broken on launch. But it's only for like 2-3
Oh
weeks.
yeah, that's technically true.
Yeah, but they're also not in competitive
they've
until it's fully.
it like yeah, you can get them before
Well, like-
competitive unlocks if you hard grind. But if you're not sitting there day in day out playing them, by the time competitive comes out, there's for that hero, because there's a 2-week grace period when the hero releases before they're in competitive. There's still most of the time about 2 weeks before even the most like even someone like me who probably plays like 5 hours a day will have unlocked that hero for free.
Yeah, by technicality, it's pay to win, but
Yeah.
you know, you can work around it.
That's like the that Overwatch hero unlock thing is probably the line for me, where I draw the line on whether or not I'd spend money on something like that.
Yeah.
I can't relate. I don't play Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of like Team Fortress 2 instead.
Oh, yeah. I play both. They both have their own things going on. People always say Overwatch and TF2 are the same game, and they just really haven't been ever. They're both really fun though.
Nope. Yeah.
I find this is more of just a me thing. I find like the character readability of Team Fortress 2 is iconic because you can put each character in like a black and white filter and you'll be able to distinguish what that character is without even seeing any detail. And I think that's like a really defining feature for the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Overwatch was like that on launch, but now they have like, because TF2 has a total of 9 characters, and Overwatch is like
Yeah,
what, like
9, yeah.
50 heroes. Like, unless you play the game a lot, you're not gonna know all 50 unless you grind that game. And a lot, 3 of us in this call do. So I can tell you from experience.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh well, oh shit. Yeah, I don't. I'm a
Yeah.
sophisticated demo man main.
Hell yeah, bro! You spawn trap, sticky trap the spawn door.
No. I'm demo knight. Even better.
Well, you said demo main. I figured you would say demo knight if you were one. That's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
it's fun.
I played a bunch of mixed knight. Like I got inspired by what's the Solar Light TF2.
So like,
I
yeah.
love Solar Light.
On the topic of, well, it is on the topic as well, Team Fortress 2's monetization. At first, it was kind of scoffed as it was kind of technically pay to win, as it included weapons in the cases. But seeing as like the weapons don't actually cost a lot unless you buy it from the store, which yes, that is overpriced and can be seen as pay to win, but it's not really because you get weapon drops anyway when you play the game, so it's completely fine. And like Team Fortress 2 on CSGO, there is cosmetics, but that's purely visual. It does not heed you in any way. It does not give you an advantage. And I find that to be like my favorite type of monetization, as it's not really giving you any sort of advantage. It's just a way to increase more profitability out of a game, but it's doing it in a way that's not over impeding on the user who's playing the game. Like you can have too many different ways of like microtransactions, like these like bundles and shit. Like I'm fine with cosmetic boxes, as it's like, yes, it's gambling, but it's as long as it's purely cosmetic, it's not gonna hinder the gameplay loop already established.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. That's actually where I was gonna go before you cut me off. I was gonna say, now that we've discussed how much we hate pay to win games, what do you think about cosmetic microtransactions? And like, yeah, that's where I was headed. What do the other two people think? Because me personally, I do like cosmetic microtransactions probably more than most other methods. And the thing is, microtransactions are kind of here to stay because it just makes business sense. Why would you sell someone a game one time when you can have them pay for the same game multiple times over several years? It's just financially better. The only reason people make like single player games now is because they actually have passion for what they're doing and they want to make a good product. But that's a rare breed nowadays outside of indie devs, which makes sense. It's a business thing. But cosmetics, especially, I'd say I play TF2 and CSGO, like both on Steam, and I really like those games in particular because they have their own marketplace for those cosmetics and stuff. So even after you buy them, at a later date, you could resell them for probably at least half of what you bought them for, if not the full price, or if not even for a profit. Like there was this one, I had some unusual hat in TF2. I bought it for the ludicrous price of like $200, which most people shouldn't do. I would not recommend it. But I got lucky enough, and now
Rich.
that hat is like $800. So I like, but that doesn't happen in other games like like Valorant or whatever, where they don't have a marketplace. But even then, I think it's okay because it's purely cosmetic. Like someone who is free to play and doesn't spend a single cent, or if it's a paid game, has paid that initial fee to play the game, will not be at a disadvantage because they don't have those cosmetics, which I really like. And it's like and I think it's like, obviously people want to buy cosmetics for games they play a lot. It's kind of just a way of supporting the devs. It's almost like merch for like a YouTuber or something. It's like just a nice way to kind of show your support without really affecting the content anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think cosmetics are definitely a good, healthy thing that businesses are doing. It's fine for the consumer, especially if it's not affecting any of the actual gameplay. So, I mean, there is sometimes where maybe like a skin might be like the only slight advantage it might have is if it's like a dark, let's just say scene, and then you get like a black character skin or like completely blacked out character skin, then it might be a little more difficult to see them. Or like if you're in a snowy environment and someone has an all white skin, then obviously it might be a little more tricky to see them. But there are outlines. It's just like it's very niche. That's why it's not really a big deal. But yeah, they are definitely. I like cosmetics in games.
It's all right. I'm really indifferent on it. I think it's nice. It's fine. It's not as intrusive as the whole pay to win stuff, and a lot of cosmetics are very nice to look at and whatever. It's just, I don't know. There's something about seeing those like microtransactions on the side and just being offered to you at all times. They're trying to market these skins to you, and it's like sometimes you give in and you feel awful for doing it. I don't know. I'm just not like a big fan of any type of microtransactions in my games, so I tend not to really indulge in it. But at the same time, I can appreciate cosmetic transactions from being very inoffensive overall because they don't really hinder the gameplay in any way.
I will say that's something I didn't even think to. There's not even like a question on this. I didn't even think to bring this up. Advertisements in games and like pop-ups for these cosmetics and stuff, I don't like at all. I don't mind if it's like, there's like a shop menu in the menu or something, and maybe one little skin is kind of like shown on the side of your screen or something. Kind of like with Overwatch, when you boot up the game, the background will have like the new skin for that season or whatever to try to maybe entice you to get it. But I hate there's a lot of like really scummy games where on the main menu there's 50 different buttons that all buy a different skin, and then somewhere in that jumbled mess there's the play button. And like
it's like mobile games.
yeah, that shit
Yeah.
that shit is awful and that's just predatory. I just don't like when they do stuff like that. So pop-ups and like even just normal ads, like there are some, I mean, especially mobile games where they just play full-on ads and stuff. I don't like that either. I think there's better ways to monetize just through cosmetics.
The other thing is the pricing. Some of these things are outrageous. You pay like $20 for like one skin. It's insane.
Yeah, that stuff is ridiculous, but it's like I don't know. It's a weird thing because it's like you really don't have to buy them. I think if I owned a business, I mean, I'm sure they're probably doing their own market research, but I would make skins like, I don't know, $5 to $10. I feel like that's a price most people would be willing to
That's
pay.
more reasonable, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's an interesting thing. It's like the general, but there's probably a reason they're making it 20. It's probably that less people are buying it up until that $20 price point, because otherwise they would do 5. Like these companies are billion-dollar companies, and all they care about is money. They're going to, even if they're gonna make bad games, they're gonna spend millions of dollars researching the best way to make the most money. So it's like
it seems like the best part of the game is their research.
Yeah.
Literally, the best research is in how to get people to buy the skins.
That is true. That is true.
You can have an absolute shit box of a game, but at least the monetization's top notch.
I mean, that's my favorite thing with the launch of yet again going back to Overwatch. That's just a game I've been playing a lot recently, but every like 2 months there's like a new season, and on the first day of the new season the servers always go to shit. You go from like your average of like 50 ping to something like 200, but only for those first few hours when everyone hops on to see what it's about. But something that will always work flawlessly on the launch of a new season is the shop menu. It's I've never had that lag out, timeout, had any issues even once. It's just something I wanted to point out.
Seems like they're hinting at something. I don't know.
Well, onto the other another kind of extension of especially cosmetic microtransactions, the battle pass. What do you guys think about battle passes in games? Because that's kind of like its own thing, I feel.
Okay, with Battle Pass, I think there's a little bit more leeway because it's, for example, going back to yet again Overwatch. If I'm not I know. If I'm not mistaken, the battle pass for what is it, like 1,000 credits?
It's
Isn't that
$10
like
pretty
a
much.
$10?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one skin in that game is $20, but the whole battle pass is $10, and you get a bunch of skins, the mythic one obviously, and then a bunch of other random stuff, and it's something to work towards. So I feel like that's if you're willing to support it in any way, I think the battle pass is usually the way to go because it's the cheaper one and you get a bit more bang for your buck at the very least, if nothing else.
I was gonna say something about holy shit, it's $20 for a skin, and then I just realized I paid for an AK skin on CS:GO for like 30.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, I mentioned this earlier. That $20 AK skin. I mean, this is almost like the crypto argument, stock market argument. It's gonna probably be $20 in like a year or two from now. So if you want to take it back, basically you have something to get back. With Overwatch, you buy that $20 skin, it's just on your account, and unless you break the TOS to sell your account, I mean, you're not getting that money back ever.
Yeah, I was realizing, I was like, holy shit, that's $20 skin. That's like a fucking brick. And then I realized, oh yeah, I buy CS:GO skins. It's kind of the same argument.
It is.
With one of them, you can actually
resell them. That's
sell
at least for now, though. But it is kind of
Yeah.
like crypto, where if one day the market for it falls apart, then your skins are instantly worthless. It's kind of like the only way they maintain value is because CSGO is free and keeps getting more players every day. But if it stops growing,
Yeah.
skin prices will crash and everyone's going to lose a lot of money. But that hopefully won't happen in my lifetime. Anyway,
I doubt it.
it depends. You can never really tell. But yeah, my thoughts on battle passes are they're good, but also somewhat predatory sometimes. I think they're really good in concept, and games like Fortnite, for example, have executed them to perfection, where you can buy the battle pass, you get like a lot of the skins you want relatively early on, with one obviously super item at the end. But if you grind enough to fill your battle pass in Fortnite, you get enough credits to buy it again basically for free perpetually. And the only people that have to pay for it again after the first time are people that maybe stop playing the game halfway through, which I think is nice. It kind of like rewards people that play your game while not punishing people that don't super hard. But what I don't like are games where the battle pass basically only have like a few good items and they're all the way at the end, and there's nothing good in the early stages. And they require a lot of time to level up, because that's the thing. The battle passes are good as long as a reasonable amount of playtime will max them out. But some of these games, I'd say actually, especially Overwatch, if you go for the free tiers or the free battle pass instead of the paid one, will require ludicrous. Like you're expected to play like 10 hours a day for 2 months to be able to max it out or something, which is just, I think, not okay. And I think that's something that has to be mentioned. Is it has to be reasonable to actually achieve the max tier for it to actually be a good system.
I mean, I kind of realized that while you were saying that, the CS:GO does kind of have battle passes. Technically, if you want to call it. The operations can be classed as a battle pass, as you literally have to pay. Like in my case, last one was Operation Wildfire. It was £10, and in return, you have to just complete challenges to get stars, but you get like a plethora of rewards. You can get. The last one was four collections of skins: 2021 Train, Dust, Mirage, and Vertigo, plus sprays and two sticker packs and 2 different packs of operators. So I'd see that as not bad though.
Well, yeah, it's not bad. It really just like I said, depends on how much you have to grind. And in the case of CS:GO specifically, the reason that in your head that doesn't even register as a battle pass at first is because you also get some like solo missions and like a lot of stuff around that. And it's not like displayed in that same linear way that battle passes are, because the reward you get for completing each tier is literally the exact same in CS. Like you just build up stars and then there's like an item shop you can buy all this stuff from. So it's
Yeah, that's why I didn't register, is because like
yeah, because
it is
it's different.
technically, as you think
I'd say it's a
is
battle
pass.
pass.
Yeah,
I'd definitely, when you mentioned the fact, because I did that. I completed the Riptide one up to like the platinum coin, like
yeah.
maxed it
I
out.
got the diamond. Yeah.
But the thing is, for me, I didn't even register as a battle pass until you reminded me that missions were a part of that, and like that you had to do certain
Yeah.
challenges, right? It was like something like, you know, kill 3 enemies in a deathmatch server or something. And it's like it was simple stuff.
Yes.
You could do it relatively fast. Like nothing in that took me more than like 1 or 2 games,
Like,
and it didn't take too long to max out. That's what I liked about it.
yeah, and there was also like you said, solo missions as well on specific maps. Like one of they brought like a couple new maps for that operation that all featured events around it with bots to play against.
So I really did like that. I do like when there's like seasons in games. I will say this will actually bleed into a question I was going to talk about later, is live service games where there's consistent updates that constantly add to a game over years and years. We kind of talked about it a bit earlier when we were talking about games that start off shit and get better. But then there's like games like, you know, for example, Fortnite is one we talked about earlier, where it starts solid and then every season there's like, you know, new skins, a new map, new buildings, new weapons, what have you.
Yeah.
Like, what do you guys think about games like that?
I mean, I don't really play those type of games anymore.
You play Overwatch.
I usually. Yeah, but that's
no,
not
that's
really.
the
I
exact
don't think that
same.
really counts.
No,
It's like,
every 2
Overwatch,
months
okay,
every 2 months in Overwatch, there's like a new hero. There's a new map.
I'm
sometimes
thinking
even new game
more
modes.
like Overwatch 1. Overwatch 1, they didn't have any of that, and
Overwatch
that's like
2,
kind of
they
what
should,
I'm more
yeah,
thinking.
but yeah. And Overwatch 1, they still did. They still released new maps.
Overwatch
and
1
new
definitely
heroes
did
and
it.
stuff.
Not nearly as much.
Not
It
as
was like,
often,
Are you-
but the
they
point,
rarely.
the point
Yeah.
is they did it though. Either way, it was like it wasn't every season. It was every 2 seasons. But point being, it still happened. That is a live service game.
Yeah, it sure as hell doesn't feel like it because it's very sporadic. And half the time it's like dog shit, like half-assed game modes.
But do you like that
Well,
model, or do you
personally,
prefer not?
I don't really like. I'm indifferent to games that do that. Like if I've played it before, okay, like I'm just gonna use Fortnite as an example. Like when I was playing that, if I was taking a break and there was a new season, I wouldn't care if it started up. I'd play it if my friends played it, but I wouldn't play it just purely to see what's going on. Like I don't really care what's going on. I know exactly what I'm getting into when I play it. So if I want to play it at that time, then I'll play it. But if I don't want to, like I'm not feeling it, then I'm not gonna go just for that, you know, new season or whatever else they got in there.
Yo, let me actually let me rephrase the question to kind of maybe get a better response to what I was thinking in my head. Do you prefer the live service model of updates or DLC? Like, would you rather buy a game once and then you could experience the entire thing, and then there's DLC every now and then where you have to pay extra, but you basically get a whole new experience or like a whole edition? Or do you prefer where it's like, you know, like we said earlier, drip fed to you in a relatively constant pace, with just a lot of stuff just over time like that?
It really depends.
Yeah, it just depends on what game it is. To be completely honest.
What comes to mind to me, right, is the comparison of like really half-baked, terrible experiences like the newer Pokemon games, which have the audacity to come out with $30 DLC, which is more of the same nonsense.
Well, the game still runs at 10 FPS.
Yeah. And then you have over on the same console over here, you have like Smash Ultimate, which has like 1 million characters or whatever, and then they make DLC, which is just more of the same. But like I don't know, it already came with so much that like they're offering more, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah. So you're saying it's like with the Smash one, it came with a full game, and the DLC was literally a whole new added experience, like just added content on top of a full experience. And you're saying with Sword and Shield, for example, they sold you half a game, and the DLC was the other half.
Yeah, and it was like, and the pricing too. The pricing too is like I'm pretty sure if you combine the Smash DLC with that, they're both come to like $30 each. And you don't get the same amount of quality and content with the Pokemon DLC than you get with the Smash one. That's just a very clear fact.
Gotcha.
For me, it's more of like a clear just DLC.
over live service.
A lot of games yeah, because from what I've played, like the games, like I've got like a library of let's see here. Let me put on my glasses. 241 games. The live service ones are doo-doo, bro. They're shit. I'm gonna keep it real. The ones like indie games like with DLC are usually top notch. So best ones to say, like I'm big into Age of Empires 2.
Yeah.
The DLCs for that game have been always really good. The Dynasties of India, Dawn of Dukes, which is a really good one, had great civilizations and a campaign. Lord of the West, but they released a controversial DLC called Return of Rome, which added the first Age of Empires game into Age of Empires 2. Now, I find that to be a good thing because Age of Empires 1, even though they made a definitive edition, is still scuffed as shit. Shocker. But the Age of Empires 2 engine is actually really good, and they've also added some small like changes to it, so it's like kind of still different. You don't really have to play it, sort of say, but it's nice to have like the options of the first game and the second game in one, even though that is apparently a controversial opinion because that's kind of like overwhelmingly negative.
Yeah, most people disagree with you. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is you like with DLC that you have the option of, do you want to pay for just the game? Do you want to pay for the game and this expansion? Like you basically get to pick what content you actually pay for and play through versus live service. You're just kind of stuck with whatever they have out at that time. And, let's say, for example, big one for me, actually, I agree with you guys that DLC is better. And the main argument for me is a little game mode in Overwatch called Luciable. I play that shit more than the actual real game, and it used to come out 3 weeks of every year. So I basically waited 11 months to play for 1 month every single year, and they randomly decided this year to shorten that time from 3 weeks down to 1 week. And I have no control over it because it wasn't like DLC or something. It's a live service game. They just decided since not many people play it, fuck you. And because it's a live service game, I'm just fucked. So I definitely agree with the DLC thing.
It's like the difference between Fallout 76 and Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Though Fallout 4 is not my favorite, my favorite is Fallout New Vegas by a mile. The story in that game is 100% better. But I like that Fallout 4 because their DLCs were quite good. Again, controversial opinion, I thought Nuka World was actually quite good. I liked the idea that you travel to like a theme park. Like the original setting of the game is like a nuclear wasteland, but you're off to like a nuclear wasteland theme park. You get to play all these rides and stuff like that, and you get to become a raider as well, adding a different playstyle to the game you've already played with, which I thought was unique, even though it wasn't well received. I like the idea behind it. And then they also just redeemed themselves with Far Harbor, another DLC set on an island with nuked ass swamp monsters and shit. And it was really good. Like there was 2 different styles that they took, and I think DLC has like the power to like add all like different areas to explore in. But then sometimes with like live services, getting like spoon fed like a skin is like, bruh, come on, give me something here. I'm paying you money for this.
For sure.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Okay, so for me personally, I think when it's a live service game and it's like a multiplayer, you kind of have to add the DLC into it like automatically. You can't, because like think about it this way: if you split up your multiplayer like player base between people who are purchasing a DLC, like I'm just going to use Black Ops 3 as a reference because that's one of my most notable ones. They ended up actually making a DLC for like a bunch of different multiplayer maps, and then there was like other people who didn't spend money on the DLC, and then it like split up their player base entirely. So now there's like 2 different people or sets of people in their game playing like different multiplayer maps at the same time, and you can't even access them at all, which I just thought was really dumb. Like, why is that? Why are those people playing by themselves over there? It's just weird. I mean, it's fine, but like for the most part, you don't want to do that. But then it's also like a drawback for those people who are for the companies that are making like the live service game, because if you do that and it's like received negatively, like people don't like that. Like in Fortnite, I didn't want all those new maps and changes to the maps all the time. I kind of just wanted to play the game how it was, like the same map, It was fine while it was, and then they changed it so much. And I just, I didn't really like how they changed it into a way that I didn't like it anymore. But you can't really like split that up because obviously it's just a big battle royale. So how are you going to split that up into two different games?
Yeah, I did actually want to move over to that. What are your thoughts on, both, first off, multiplayer games, like multiplayer only games, like Psychon was talking about? Or what about also games that are kind of online only because they're like multiplayer only, pretty much? I guess those are two separate things, but for me, it's like multiplayer only games I generally don't like because sometimes I do just want to play by myself. I want something to do by myself, and especially when multiplayer games are like multiplayer only, so the company makes it like online only. Yet again, but we keep coming back to this game, but like I think it's just we all play it. Well, outside of Founder, unfortunately, so he doesn't understand a lot.
That's Overwatch, bro.
But yeah, it is. But
Oh.
with Overwatch, you can only play that game if you have internet, and I don't see why for some of the things in that game. Like, there's like you can play like these like on private servers by yourself and just kind of do some like parkour and stuff. But you need internet connection to do it, which is very unfortunate because I've been playing Overwatch on my Steam Deck to some degree, and I just when I'm off like at a park bench or something, I would maybe just sit down for a bit, hop around some maps. I just can't do it unless I like tether to my phone or something, which is really, really annoying and weird. And there's no reason for it to be online only. I think it could easily be available offline. Like TF2, for example, primarily multiplayer game, but available offline. And I can tell you for a fact, I've had a ton of fun offline, like messing with maps, messing with bots, like what have you. And I think it's just dumb not to have the option for offline play in any game.
Yeah, you kind of hit all the marks there. What I was going to say is an outrageous example of this was back when multiverses was a thing.
Oh,
and
my
you brought
God,
up
that
this
game.
exact same point back then, where it's literally just a Smash clone, and you would think, yeah, it makes sense to have some offline lobbies, but for whatever reason, you just could not. You had to connect to their server to play
At least that one was like an alpha or whatever, but yeah, that game was so annoying. I specifically remember there was like, I think 3 people, like me and 2 other people in the room together, and our internet at that time was so bad that we couldn't connect to the servers. And even though we were locally right next to each other, and if we pulled out Smash, we could have played it, we literally could not play the 2D fighting game against each other locally, which is just ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah. Like, at least have an option, have an
offline option,
offline mode,
or like maybe LAN connection or something like Minecraft has.
It's almost like we're kind of just regressing.
Yeah,
I think Payday 2 does it quite well compared to Payday 3. Payday 3 is only online. Shocker, that has been a problem with its server issues for a couple of weeks, and all they've done is send a bro fist emoji and another emoji with a guy with sunglasses on and said, "Hello heisters, we see the problem." And that's it. Payday 2, on the other hand, is multiplayer and single player. Does it need to be online? No. You can play locally, and it's fun.
Does it work like Left 4 Dead, where you can play either online or like locally with other people, or you can play solo and then they give you 3 bots that are on your team that work with you?
Yeah, basically the same as Left 4 Dead 2.
Yeah, I mean stuff like that. It's obviously some people don't like that system, and for those people, just play online multiplayer. I mean, no one's stopping you. I've had a lot of people tell me like, yeah, I had a great time playing Left 4 Dead solo with the bots. I remember a lot of fun stuff in a 1-person game offline that I had fun with that game. And you're hearing less and less of that because every game's online only, and it's always like, you have to hop into a game. You have like a maybe 0.01% chance there's some random streamer in your lobby to also ruin that game. It's like, actually, on that topic, this was another topic I failed to include, but what do you think about like content creators in games? Like the fact that, because back in the day, bro, if I was playing Call of Duty, there was a 0% chance, a pretty much 0% chance that anything I said or did would be known by anyone other than the people in that lobby or Microsoft. But now if someone just write hello in chat, there's like probably a maybe 1 in 10 chance that someone in my game is streaming or recording it. Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, it probably like decreases the amount of toxicity if people are scared of their name getting, spat on by the community, but I don't find an issue with it at all, to be honest. Like, everything is just fine with me if there's content creators making like stuff on me. I actually was in a video with Squishy Muffins, I don't know, Rocket League guy. It's got like 1 point whatever million views, and
Yeah.
I honestly didn't even know until I found out later. Like, people were just messaging me
someone
like
just sent
crazy,
you the
like,
video.
"Yo, you're in this video." Yeah, I was like, "What the fuck? What do you mean? I didn't know I was in this." It's like, okay, whatever. I didn't really care personally, but I mean, there are some people that would be like, okay, well, maybe I don't want people recording me at all times and putting it online for millions of people to see, but that's just someone else's opinion, I guess.
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, I did just mention all of that, like, phrasing or whatever, of like, before no one would know, now people do. I also don't really care. I almost view video games kind of like walking down the street. It's like when you're out in public, you don't have the expectation of privacy, right? Like that's like a whole legal thing. It's like if you're out in public, people can just record you. Like that's allowed. It's okay. And if you don't want that to happen, stay home, stay in private locations. And that's kind of same thing for video games. If you don't want the chance of people recording your games, maybe, I don't know, open up a private server with friends, stick to single player games. Like, you don't have to interact with other people in that way.
I think there's like a duality as well. Like, you have games that are heavily monitored, like Valorant, and I'm not too sure about any other games. I know Valorant's heavily monitored, so like if you swear in that game, you get instantly banned. And then like the duality is like CS:GO, Team Fortress 2, and Rust, where everyone drops the N-word on like a 10-time basis, and everyone like is racist.
In CS:GO, they do actually combat people, but in TF2, I've never heard of anyone getting combat. I don't think it's even possible.
No, making it even worse, you can have signs with decals on it. You can guess what's on half of them other than porn.
First off, you can turn them off. And second off, I think they're off by default nowadays. They didn't used to be up until I think like the pandemic, like 3 years ago.
I think mine just been on.
But now,
but
now you can have them on again. They were full on disabled in like 2020 because of all the bots that were posting certain images. And then Valve fixed up a lot of that stuff. But I do like the customization, and I think free speech is a good thing. Even if people use it in that way, it's like, I'd rather have that than have stuff like Overwatch and Valorant, where I don't even remember what it was, but I said some, like, as a joke, someone had like some old time English thing as their name, like Rudy Toot Scoot or whatever, and I made like a really shit pun about it, and half of my sentence got censored because apparently half of those words are like slurs in like some parts of India or something. It's like, they like, clearly this was not malicious. I don't think anyone would have taken this as malicious, and it's always really annoying whenever I say something super PG and get censored. And then also sometimes I just want to say other things, and like there's no, unless I'm in like TF2 or something, there's no way to like mark your chat as mature or something. And they actually took that option away from you in Overwatch and added chat censor. So even if you say, I want unfiltered chat, specifically you had to enable it in your options. They actually got rid of that option for some unknown reason, which I don't like.
Wait, it's gone? I didn't even notice.
Yeah, unfiltered is gone. They removed the option and then they changed it to mature.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where is it?
Future.
It's under social.
I kind of just.
Oh, wow. I just looked at it and yeah, it's changed.
No, yeah, it's been gone for
That's
like
crazy,
a few months.
I didn't know.
I kind of pay very little mind to these sorts of things. Like, I never really think, oh, there could be a streamer in my game or something. The thought just never crossed my mind. For all I know, there's probably a video out there somewhere with me in it, and I just will never find out.
I mean, there's a lot of just me and you playing stuff, but I guess you know about those.
Obviously, aside from those, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also just generally don't say a lot in games. Like, I play online games or whatever, but every now and then I might type something in chat, but I generally don't really use voice too much or whatever. I kind of keep to myself. It's just how I am. So these are sorts of things that I don't really worry too much about, just inherently.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same with that. If you worry too much about it, then you're caring too much.
Yeah.
It's the best way to put it.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But this is only very lightly connected to anything we just said. But I had the topic of game reviewers. Like, what do you think about game reviewers, like the official ones or unofficial ones? Like, your IGN versus your Sizzyl or your founder. What do you guys think about those?
Wait, I'm a
Sizzyl
game
reviews are
reviewer?
Crazy.
Aren't you? Then I mean, you kind of talk about games.
I didn't know I
don't
was a
know.
fucking game reviewer.
I think you classify. I mean, you're not as much of a game. Like, I do give like games whole ass scores and stuff. But I remember, I don't know. I watched your, I forgot what video, but you talked about a game for a long ass time, and I would consider that almost like a review, like talking about like your
That's
your
vaguely my entire channel, but go on.
yeah, your experience with that game as a child and stuff. Like, I think that kind of classifies as a review. It's like, yeah, this is my experience with the game. This is like everything I did in it. This is kind of what I think about it. This is how it's impacted me. I think that's a game review. Just because it doesn't have a score doesn't mean it's not a game review.
Yeah, I don't really see myself as more as like a game reviewer, and I'm not trying to say this
Yeah.
is like to boast or anything. I see myself as more as just like not as like a game reviewer, just more as like someone who likes to document.
Connoisseur.
Yeah, an enthusiast.
Yeah. Well, reviewers tend to be
Like-
enthusiasts. It's hard to review stuff you're not interested in.
I guess like I see video game donkey as more like a reviewer
Yeah,
than
yeah,
myself.
yeah.
If I'm being
For
honest.
sure.
Of course.
Like the late Total Biscuit, if anyone remembers that name.
I feel like I've heard that before, but I don't remember exactly.
He
But-
passed away
That's
many years
unfortunate.
ago. He was a genuine critic of games, and he really is. He was really good. I really enjoyed watching his WTF series, which is on games, and he went into great detail about anything he found wrong with the game or things he found extremely well with the game. So I prefer Unofficial.
Yeah, same here. I like watching random videos online from X or Y creator. Mainly if like they're talking about something I'm interested in or I like. Just getting their opinion is always fun. They have like a very entertaining spin on it usually. So that's always like, I mean, Donkey is a prime example of that. His videos are not only informative, but they're funny as fuck.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch that any day over a boring like just a IGN video. Like they're fine. I mean, they
Yeah.
work, but I don't know.
I don't
I'd
even
rather
know
be
if they do
entertained.
work, to be honest. They just give everything like a solid score, and the higher scores are the people that paid them more money. It's like
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't watch them enough to know.
I've
Like,
never
I
watched
really
them
don't.
directly, but I always see indirect critiques of IGN. Like they pop on my YouTube all the time.
Yeah,
I
I've
think
seen a lot of
Donkey's
memes
even
and
done stuff
whatever.
himself. You
Yeah.
know, I'm sure you've heard the phrase "exaggerated swagger of a black teen" a few times. It's like that was from like an IGN review. I'm pretty sure. Like who comes up with that?
Or the too much
What?
water.
Have you never heard the
No,
classic?
you just reminded me.
Yeah.
Cuphead one, the Cuphead
The
tutorial.
Cuphead one where the game reviewer
No.
literally couldn't get out of the tutorial. That was beautiful. The fact that they admitted that so openly was insane to me.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, second kind of follow up to that is, do you guys, when you buy a game, do you first check reviews, or do you buy a game then check reviews, or is it like half and half, or like you only buy, or you've bought certain games only from reviews, but for most of your games you just buy them naturally? Like how does that go about?
Okay, so for me, I don't know if you guys probably know Dark and Darker, right? I
Is that
never
a
knew
game?
a single thing about it. I don't know. It's just that really popular game for like a little while there, and people were playing it. Overwatch players were playing it, whatever. But anyways, my friend, he's just like, yo, he's like hyping it up. Like, this is gonna be so fun. It's $50. Might as well just get it. I was like, dude, I don't really want to get it. I didn't really look too much into the gameplay. I was just like, okay, you know what? I want to spend some time with my buddy. I'm just gonna get the game based off of him giving like an hyped explanation of what it is. And then I bought the game, played it for literally 1 hour, and I wanted a refund. And the most annoying thing was I couldn't even get one. Dark and Darker fucking scammed me out of my $50. I couldn't even get a refund, so now I'm down $50. I only played for an hour, and it was through like a website online, which was pretty scuffed.
Okay. To,
But
like, a
yeah,
game key.
from now on, I'm always gonna be looking at reviews. Not like I don't really find too much use in getting reviews out of one single person, like game reviewers in particular, because it's just one opinion. Like I want to see it from everyone's perspective, everyone who's played the game, what their thoughts are on it, because there are people who will think about it the same as me. And also, you have to kind of basically play the game in order to actually find out if the game's for you, because some reviewers, they might leave something negative on it, and now, if you don't try it, then you'll never know if it's maybe something that you're interested in. But that's just me personally.
That reminds me of the recent. There's like Linus Tech Tips had a big scandal where apparently, like, I don't know, it was like 10% or something of his tech hardware reviews that weren't like sponsored had inaccurate information, and he straight up like said some things were bad that were completely fine because he did a bad test. And he just basically said like, "Whoops, sorry." And then like some of those companies were like companies that just started up and literally crashed and burned because of his review. So it's like it's very important, I'd say, to get multiple opinions for sure. But I was gonna say, in terms of how I decide to buy my games, some games of certain series, I don't even care if it's gonna be awful. It's almost like I view it almost like a cosmetic purchase in a game, where some games don't have cosmetics, so I'll just buy the next game in the series without looking at it, just as preemptive support, because what they've done so far is very good. What comes to mind is Pokemon, which I bought gens, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I didn't buy 6 actually. I forgot. I skipped that one because it had fairy types, and I had a stupid mentality that fairy types were for kids at the time. I have no fucking clue where that came from. But then I bought Gen 7, and I also bought Gen 8 of Sword and Shield. And I stopped buying because after buying that game, it was just awful. And that ended that cycle for me. But a lot of the stuff I buy is like kind of supporting series that I like, because I liked Gen 3, 4, 5, and 7, and then I also went back and actually bought 1 and 2, and they were all right. And because of that, I kept just buying the next thing in the series. But then the other stuff I buy is either, certain friends want to play games with me. First, I actually normally check reviews, even if they recommend it to me, because kind of like what Psycom said, I've had friends recommend games to me, buy them, they're shit, and then I can't get a refund. It's happened more than once for me. So I've now, every time someone recommends me something, I watch like a quick hour or two of random multi-people reviews. And if they look favorable, or if they look like something I might like, then I buy it. But that's basically it. I haven't like went out of the way to find new games pretty much ever. I get almost all my games either from like Donkey doing a game review, or some other game reviewer doing a game review, my friends recommending it, or just it being in a series I've already been buying. That's pretty much all my purchases.
The one best feature about Steam that no other platform has got is the reviews by users.
Yeah.
Literally no other platform has reviews.
Well, it's
I don't know why.
It's specifically the uncensored reviews. That's what makes it good, because every other platform will censor it. People can write literally. I mean, people write some shit on some games where it's like, "I love cats," and it's like a game about like, it's like Modern Warfare 3, right? But just seeing that there in the reviews kind of makes the rest of them more valid, because it's like if that review's there, everything everyone wrote is going to be there, which I definitely appreciate. The unfiltered, just reviews of the general public is always nice.
Yeah, for me, like I was gonna buy Payday 3, but it came out as soon as I was going on a holiday. So that holiday, while I was round and around, I was having a look at how Payday 3 was doing. To my surprise, it went to absolute shit. Servers were not loading, and it was online only, and everyone was having issues with the game. And all they kept saying was a bro fist emoji and a emoji with sunglasses is saying, "Heisters, we hear your issues. We're solving it."
Yeah.
Sounds really good to me. But other times I read them because I see a game and I'm interested in, because I literally look at a lot of retro shooter games. H-Rot was a good one. And one I paid outright was Ultra Kill. And I saw it had overwhelmingly positive reviews. I looked at the trailers for the game. It looked really good. And I read a review about how the game functioned and how it played with all its like cool different mechanics. And I was like, holy shit, that sounds fucking sick.
No, Ultra Kill, as a game I've already bought because it looks so sick from some game reviewers that I saw and some reviews I saw. So it's at the top of my my bucket list right now of games
It's
to
worth
play.
it.
Oh, I've already bought it.
I'm
I
in-
know. I bought it because I
Oh.
know I'm gonna love it. But I just have so many games I have to play right now that it's unfortunate. It's like at the third slot right now because I very slowly I do game reviews, like just game reviews. And there's just other games that have been in line for way longer. Like I'm talking maybe decades that they've just been sitting in my Steam library. So it's it's more of inefficiency on my part rather than me saying that the game's even remotely bad. But that's like another one where it's like I just saw good reviews for it from everyone. Like there was like one bad review and it was like so blatantly awful that it made the game seem that much better. It's like there was this I don't even know, I don't remember any specifics anymore, but it just reminded me of this there's a game review of the Steam Deck where some guy said he didn't like the Steam Deck because it didn't fit in his backpack and because I don't know, because it was like a weaker powered system than his like $3,000 desktop, and I'm like, did you even look at what this was before you bought it? Like, it's not supposed to be either of those things. Or like the not fitting your backpack thing is like you just didn't look at the dimensions of it. You had to because he had to pre-order it. This was someone that got it like I think Q2, meaning he pre-ordered it within the first day of its release. Because I ordered it like 2 days after, and it took a year for mine to get there. So he pre-ordered it just to not know anything about it, which is crazy to me. But it made the Steam Deck just that much better because it's like the only negative review I can find is some guy who is just off his rocker.
Sounds about right. Avid Steam fans.
Yeah.
I love the Steam Deck. I actually have one. I
Yeah.
ordered that months in advance.
My Steam
and
Deck
I
is
really like it. It's a great console.
so good, man. I love this thing. I play so many games on my Steam Deck. It's insane. And actually, in that same thing though, what are you guys' thoughts on games that are like platform specific? So games that are only on Steam, only on Epic Games, only on PlayStation, like locked to consoles, or like only available in basically only available in either certain stores or consoles.
Okay, so I got a good envision for what is good for games. So yes, it's good to have those types of games for all consoles, like cross-platform and everything. But you can't have those types of games, in my opinion, for competitive. And that's where you draw the line for let's just take Warzone for example. That game is like cross-platform, and when there's people who are keyboard and mouse, and there's people who are on controller who have aim assist, then it becomes a pretty big, and same with Fortnite, like an issue with the competitive scene, like not having the balance that it needs in order to function as like a high competitive game. Like sometimes it can work, but for the most part, you don't want to like mix those things together. But for the casual gamers, absolutely, you want to have as much cross-platform as possible, because then it gets people from all different, like your friends, you could play with them if they're like not on the same platform as you, and it just makes it so much better for everyone, for the casuals. But competitive, like I said, yeah, you don't want to mix those up, because then people start getting throwing tantrums and stuff in Twitter and whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
Console exclusives and whatnot are bound to happen. Like they all have to have their market. I mean, when I think about it, I sure as hell would not be playing on a fucking Switch if those games were available on PC. Like, it's just not gonna happen. But that being said, because those particular games are only available on there, they fucking got me. In their fucking, they got my money. It's just like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's kind of the whole thing. It's just a matter of circumstance.
I will say any game that's independent of like a company, for example, Nintendo obviously is going to lock all their games to their console that year, whether it be the Switch, the DS, what have you. But if you have the freedom as a developer, I cannot think of a single reason why you wouldn't want cross-platform. Like it's so like before cross-platform, you'd actually have to develop the game like 4 times over. You'd have to literally make it from source 4 times over for every system. But now, like game engines exist, things like Unity, Godot, Unreal. and they can literally, with the click of a button, the same game will run on PC and Switch at the exact same time with no extra effort. So at this point, there's not really an excuse, and it literally just more sales for you, like more people playing your game. And like Psycom was saying, if it's a casual game, then there's just more people that can play with their friends without being locked to certain consoles. Like I remember I had some friends who were, they were playing on Xbox PlayStation back in the day when I had an Xbox, or when I was using my DS, they were using like a PlayStation or an Xbox, and that always just sucked. So I'm glad the technology's there, and I'm hoping the marketing of locking people to certain consoles kind of goes away, because it's really annoying for that exact same reason. Because I think you should just be able to play with your friends on the console you want. I mean, that's why I like the Steam Deck. It's mainly because Steam games are one massive amount of games I play, but even non-Steam games I can emulate like perfectly well on my Steam Deck, and it's been beautiful. Just having one device for everything instead of having like 5 devices for 5 games only.
Yeah, I just have my vintage consoles, my Switch, and my PC, and I'm good to go. It's really not that much for me. I can manage. I mean, PC for me is like very good specifically for shooters because mouse and keyboard is like ideal for that sort of thing. But all my other games, I'm perfectly content just playing on a controller. Like it's very chill. I just in bed on the TV, whatever. It's nice. I have no issues.
I just think it can be fine because with PS4 they have like Uncharted. It's like a reason to buy the console. If they have no reason, then fuck they're gonna do. I don't know. Try. It's like it's differentiating the platform. Like they've got God of War, which is on Steam now. So fuck the PlayStation. Have to buy it.
Yeah.
So, but I do find it quite annoying that you have to like pay for a new console, but again, from a business standpoint, I do understand that it's like you have to like have some sort of incentive to buy it, other than just good graphics. It's a new PlayStation or a new Xbox. Keep it at that. But for a casual perspective, I do like games that are cross-platform for all games, and it works perfectly. Like Dusk is on the Switch now, I think it is. Let me see. Dusk, Nintendo. Yeah. The game Dusk by New Blood is on the Switch, and it's on Steam as well. And it works on the Steam Deck. Even though it's like a single-player game, I still find like I like that option that they give you on many different platforms.
Yeah. All right. So one last question before we kind of go to closing thoughts. What is your favorite game of all time at this moment? Because that might change in the future. And like, why is that your favorite game?
Trying to give you 2 games.
If you're split down the middle, go ahead. Yeah.
Age of Empires 2, because I've played that since childhood, and Dusk for different reasons.
Interesting.
One reason being Age of Empires 2. It's I think it came out in 1998 and it still gets 30,000 concurrent players. It's that old, and it's because of how good the game functions. It's like just a good RTS game. You've got great strategy, you've got different groups, you've got different civilizations, and it just functions very well. It adds skill to the game, and you can do many sort of things. Whereas Dusk, I just have like a real fondness to retro shooters, and it has like great balance of fast-paced movement action, unlike Ultra Kill, which is ADHD simulator.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like how it's stylized and how it throughout plays. It's one of my favorite single-player games of all time.
All right.
My favorite game is Mother 3. It's a very old GBA game. It's just kind of like an RPG that is just wacky, very colorful characters, but also kind of like it was a very fascinating story that I just kind of got enthralled in overall. And I've always liked the little world, and it's such a very well, it's not that obscure these days, but it's definitely not something that comes up very often. But aside from that, because I'm gonna be honest, it's not really necessarily for the gameplay, it's more of like a sentimental thing.
Mhm.
Because if I'm talking gameplay, some of the peak gameplay things for me are like it's kind of torn between the Pikmin series as a whole. I can't really pick one, but I just love that. Or Mario 64, which is just a childhood classic for me. Those games, I'm a fucking my Scrimlow head ass cannot get enough of these kinds of games. Just goofy ass little wacky characters going around throwing shit. Like that's my jam, bro. It's just what I love.
For me, well, I don't have an official favorite game. I have three that I think would tie for the top. That's gonna be Rocket League, OG Fortnite, like season 1 and 2, and then Black Ops 1. And Black Ops 1 is mostly just because of nostalgia. Like that was one of the first games I started playing on my Xbox 360, and I just loved everything about it. The zombies, the multiplayer. It was all just like it was so good back then. Just get home, play for whatever amount of time that you want to play for, and then get off for the night and repeat. But Fortnite, OG Fortnite, I don't think any game really has an experience quite like OG Fortnite because it was just like there's nothing like it, right? I was completely brand new. The Battle Royale scene, well, it wasn't like Battle Royale wasn't brand new, but the way that they implemented building into it, and then you could like build a nice little fort and like your own cover and whatever, that was just so like unbelievable for me. It was just so much fun to play with your friends. You could like build like a whole ass castle with you and your buddies and then build sky bases. Oh man, nothing compares to it. But Rocket League, I dislike Rocket League now, but back when I was like a competitor for it, like I was playing in the top 100 or whatever against the pros and whatever, that game is just purely because of the competition. I loved competing. It was basically like playing soccer but in real life. Like maybe you might not like soccer, but any sport that's just like a team-based game, it was just like playing that but in real life because you can make passing plays, and it was just so satisfying to get better at your mechanics and like grind the game until you became unstoppable. And that's what it was. The skill differential from Rocket League in any other game is unlike, there's nothing like it. It's the highest skill cap game in my opinion. There's nothing higher. And that grind for getting to the very top is just what made it so special for me. I just loved, getting that far and, playing with the best people. It was just so much fun making plays and having that synergy with your teammates. No other game is really like that.
I do just want to clarify before I give my answer. When you said it's like soccer but in real life, you meant like it's like has the same qualities as soccer in terms of team play, not that you were like it's like soccer isn't real or something.
No, like obviously it's just like the team aspect of it.
Just to make sure, bro. Gamers can be
Well.
stupid. I will say.
Yeah, didn't know you thought of me that way, but
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Anyway, for me, I'm kind of I don't know. There's like so many games that are up there for me. Like there's like a big list of honorable mentions. Stuff like Celeste, Mario Odyssey, like Psychom said, Black Ops 1 for me for the same kind of reasons. But for me, my big two are more tied to nostalgia than anything. It's first off a game series almost no one's heard of called Advance Wars. And it's Advance Wars 1 with Advance Wars, Black Hole Rising, and Dual Strike. It's 3 games in its own series. It was like a strategy game, like really cartoony, like characters and design. And I really, really like that game. I think mainly out of nostalgia because the gameplay of it's like super slow, and I don't get many opportunities to play it with anyone. So I don't really think it's for the gameplay. I think it's mainly I like the cartoony characters and stuff. I think that kind of exposure to those type of characters early on is what got me into being willing to try TF2. Like the second I got a computer, first I played Minecraft, then I played TF2. And I think it's mainly because of Advance Wars, because I love those characters and the way they interacted so much that it was really easy to get into. And then my like favorite game in terms of like gameplay and nostalgia is probably Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, or Black and White 2. I played a fuck ton of Pokemon as a kid. I love everything the series has to offer. Like the story is pretty solid. There's a lot of fun gameplay, a lot of like kind of like outthinking people. which I'm a big fan of. I like outsmarting my opponents rather than kind of outskilling them, if that makes sense. And Pokemon had a lot of that, a lot of fun versus AI, a lot of fun parts of the map to explore. And I say Heart Gold and Soul Silver in particular because that was the one I probably sunk the most time into because it had the biggest region, and that was the one where most of my friends were playing at the time. But yeah, I think that's that.
Fair enough.
And with that out of the way, is there any closing thoughts anyone has before we end this off?
Games are fun.
What do you say?
What?
Wow.
You said games are fun.
Wow, yeah, crazy insight. Thank you for that one.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Never
What a
thought about
thought.
it that way.
Oh, I found the game. It was called Redfall. I remember. I was trying to remember the name of the game that Bethesda made, and it was absolute dog shit. It was developed by the same company as, get this, the people who made Prey and Dishonored,
Damn, that's
and it was sold for 60 pounds,
Uh-huh.
and it is total shit. It's awful. The game sucks.
Good to know.
£60 for that.
Yeah.
No wonder why no one likes fucking Bethesda, bro. That game was doo-doo.
I mean,
Even the game has... Oh, sorry.
Even the most loved Bethesda games are loved because of how awful they are. Like Skyrim, people love Skyrim because it's so poorly made. Like that's
Yeah, it looks kind of
I don't know.
scuffed.
That's what it's all about. That's like what that company's known for, which is why a lot of people also don't like them because people generally like functioning games. But yeah. All right. Well, unless anyone else has any other really insightful closing thoughts, like games are fun. I think that's gonna end off our little podcast here. Yeah, make sure to check everyone out in either the description of the video, or if you're listening from something like Spotify, the description on there. And I'll see you in the next one.